Hello and welcome to the epilogue episode for the Bloodforged. So, it was a little bit up in the air whether I would end the campaign here or not, and obviously I did decide to end it now, as things were becoming a little bit too easy for us, and they were a little bit easy for quite a while actually. That is perfectly understandable, as we have played this campaign for, let's see, over 200 days, and people are quite high level. I think Theobald might be the lowest level, and he is level 14. So yeah, as with my previous campaigns, I will go through, let's see, the run and the goals, the obituary, the team, then we will retire, and finally I will speak briefly about what will be up next. Okay, so firstly, let's speak about the run and the goals. So overall it went pretty smoothly apart from some hiccups, mostly in the arena, where I got a couple of us killed kind of needlessly. But yeah, overall it was a good run, and we did accomplish the goals that I set, which were the 2 new legendary locations, which were pretty easy by the time we got to them, and also we were successful at the Black Monolith, which I did over-prepare for, I suppose, but that is better than the alternative. And now I also have a far better understanding of Reforged mechanics, and I have experienced a bigger variety. I have experimented more with the builds that you can do in Reforged, and I would say that I am a better player for the mod, and I guess also the game overall now, than I was for the poacher run. So yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with how the run went. And now let's take a moment to honor the fallen. So 8 men have fallen since I took command, but only a couple of names, well, 2 names here, really ring out. So the first one is of course Tavid the Bear, one of the starting gladiators who I got killed in the arena, was ripped to shreds by a nacho. So I guess I kind of played badly, but also maybe got a little bit unlucky there. Oh well. And then we have a bunch of people who did their part, but I don't really remember much about them, so rest in peace to you guys as well, but sadly I don't have much more to say about you. Nearly all of them have been labeled as a bait character, so I guess it makes sense. Volkhart was, I guess, someone who could have been someone, but ultimately wasn't. Oh well. But then we have the final name in the list here, Zishan Big Bonk, who was probably my favorite character for the run, and he as well perished in the arena. I guess because I was just, well, not really playing well there. Underestimated some brigands and a hedge knight, and yeah, I did play that fight pretty badly. But so it goes. So it goes. Hopefully now I am a bit better when it comes to the arena. Okay. Alright, now let's go through the team. So firstly we have Theobald, who was luckily successful in realizing his potential and became our tank. And despite having only 87 hit points, he was pretty damn good at his job. I think he was integral in our win in the Black Monolith, and pretty good in other fights as well, but mostly I wanted to have a tank character, and an excellent tank, for just that one fight, the Monolith, because that makes it far more easier. So he had Underdog, he had Indomitable, he had Finesse to help with fatigue costs. That is of course from the same tree as Underdog, the trained tree. Also got Fortified Mind, Steel Brow, etc, etc, etc. So yeah, thank you Theobald for your service, and the run would have taken far longer if he had failed this, because I would have fired him at that point and tried to find someone else. But yeah, also we got extremely lucky this time with Promise Potential. Every single one succeeded with this, which is kind of insane. Kind of insanely lucky there. But that makes up for the poacher run where, if I remember correctly, only one of us actually succeeded with Promise Potential. So yeah, you win some, you lose some, and this time we did win. He was with us for 130 days, only has 53 kills, but he was the tank, so yeah. He was also club-footed, which kind of annoyed me at times, but that in the end didn't really matter all that much. Would have been better if he didn't have this, or perhaps had like Pathfinder available. But anyway, next up we have Milo, who ultimately did pretty well as like a backup tank slash kind of damage dealer. Was using a regular arming sword for a long while, until I finally caved in and bought a noble sword instead, with which he was able to do a bit more. So he was never able to really be our main tank, mainly because he didn't have Underdog available. And maybe, I guess I could have fired him at some point, but ultimately he did his part. He might have been the weakest damage dealer of the bunch, but I think he performed ultimately well. Obviously not as well in the damage department as the others, but still. He was with us for 208 days and got 235 kills. Don't think there's much more to say about him, so he was a farmhand. Or, I guess, still is kind of a farmhand. Kind of. Anyway, next up we have Zahiri the Viper, one of the starting gladiators. One of the best killers in the game because of... let's see, where is it? This thing, Glorious Quickness. But I didn't go with the dagger route with him. From professional we got the sword perks and I just went with swords for the whole run and it worked perfectly fine. What I could have done is get Weapon Master at some point, at which point we could have used like a two-handed mace in conjunction with the dagger. That would have worked very well. So we could have used the two-handed mace to inflict dazes, etc. and then Quattle daggered our opponents down, but I never did go for that, and it was fine. So he was using this Olaf the Cruel's sword, which is a famed longsword, kind of fatigue intensive to keep using it, but he was performing pretty well. Well, more than pretty well, I guess. So yeah, let's see. With us from the start and got nearly 800 kills, so that's quite a lot. Next up, we have Zubair, the Lion, the other starting gladiator. Of course, the bear didn't make it, but these two did. Okay, so he was using a cleaver for a long time until I decided to use a flail instead for a while, at which point he wasn't benefiting from the duelist perk anymore, but so it goes sometimes. It was better for the team overall, and in the end of the run, we found this orc cleaver that he was using for a little bit. Does need a lot of help in fatigue costs to use this thing effectively, even with Iron Lungs and the insane double grip bonus that Reforged gives you for cleavers. 30% more damage and 25% less fatigue. Even so, I ended up giving him finesse, and even then, this is still kind of fatigue intensive to use, at least if you want to benefit from Sanguinary. Anyway, he got 503 kills, so didn't do quite as well as Zahiri did, but he was an integral part of the team, of course. He also lost his eye at one point, which I took a calculated risk with the Wildman event, and that's what happened. So that's why I never gave him a whip, though maybe I never would have anyway. I don't usually use whips. They do have their uses, but usually I don't bother with them. Anyway, not much to say more about that, I think. So, well, let's speak a little bit about this. So I did give him that Weapon Master, which enabled the flail things, which I didn't give for Zahiri. And I might have given him quick hands at some point to be able to use like a one-handed weapon in conjunction with a reach weapon, a two-handed reach weapon, as in Reforged. Currently, at least, you cannot switch between two-handed melee weapons for free with this. Anyway, next we have Mahdi, one of these promised potential guys, was originally an indebted, which is a pretty nice background for that, as they don't demand any wages even after realizing this. Anyway, I did end up making an Axeman out of him, and he did come pretty close to death a couple of times, since even though he does have Underdog, he does have quite low hit points, and well, 55 melee defense is nothing to sneeze at, but still. Partly because he was using Poise, which is maybe the weakest option available in comparison to Battleforged and Nimble, but in the end he did survive, and let's see, with us for 205 days, got nearly 300 kills. He was pretty good, and I'm also pretty happy I gave him Rotation and Vigorous Assault. We made good use out of both of those, and he was also using a Man Splitter, which was pretty nice with Finesse and Battle Flow, so Split Man was only 12 fatigue, and if he was able to get a kill, he would be able to swing again, even with this heavy weapon. So yeah, he reached level 17. Well, let's actually... So Milo was level 17, Zahiri level 20, Zubair level 19. Next up, we have Einar, level 17 as well. So he was, or is, an Oath-taker. And in the end, he was using this Censer of the Diviner, which is the new legendary weapon from one of the new legendary locations, which has this very nice Castigate ability. Let me actually see. A reach attack with an AoE effect. I don't like the miasma effect from this weapon, but it's a nice weapon. It's a nice weapon. You just have to play accordingly with the miasma, even if usually it hurts more than it helps. Anyway, he was with us for 152 days and got 259 kills. Only 80 hit points with Nimble, which is pretty low. I did give him 9 lives. I don't remember if this ever triggered, but I do stand by that decision. I think if you have low hit points, that's called for. I also gave 9 lives to Zubair, and I don't think that ever triggered, but if he had been punctured a couple of times in a row, it might have, so 66 hit points for Zubair only, so I stand by that as well. Anyway, so Einar was using flails, obviously. Also had pattern recognition, which is also what Zahiri had. I think that's a very nice perk, especially in the longer fights. Anything else to say about him? He also had Vigorous Assault, which is pretty good. Works very well with this weapon as well. Yeah, I think we'll move on. So next up we have Leofric, who was, well, still is a beggar, but succeeded with potential. Also clumsy, but still got to 96 melee skill and 72 melee defense. Never did get Underdog, so I did need to play a little bit careful with him, especially since he only had 83 hit points and was nimble. Also didn't get 9 lives available, but I was able to keep him alive, though it did come pretty close for him a couple of times. And he was also using the Unstoppable perk, which is pretty nice, I must say, as long as you can keep the fatigue costs under control. For that we had Battle Flow and Decisive. Finesse would be another option, but obviously he didn't have access to it. So yeah, 72 melee defense, but no underdog, and pretty low hit points, so I did need to be careful with him. And I did never give him Steel Brow, which maybe I should have at some point, but then again that would have meant skipping out on something. He was using just a regular two-handed flanked mace until the end, because we never found a famed one. I did eventually find a one-handed version and a reach version, this thing, but anyway. So eventually, with the help of Unstoppable, he was able to swing this thing twice per round, which was pretty damn nice, but it did take a while to get there. With us for 210 days and got 330 kills, so yeah, was performing pretty well. Admirably well, I guess. Next up, we have Charade. Well, let's see. Leofric got to level 17. Don't remember if I said that or not, but anyway. So next up, we have Charade the Gladiator. Not a starting Gladiator, but still. Got to level 16. Took Discovered Talent, but he only got 1 star in melee defense from that, and it did take quite a long while, and I basically only wanted melee defense out of this. I believe this has been... The perk Discovered Talent has been buffed since. I don't know how good it is currently, but in its previous form, which I had for this run, it was, I think, a bit weak, and I did think... Well, I do think that it was pretty weak for the Poacher run as well, where I tried that out. But anyway, whatever. Charade was with us until the end, from when we got him, of course. I was a little bit disappointed with this melee defense roll that he got. Let's see, base 16, that's pretty low. But then again, he did get help from shields, which I felt kind of obligated to get. And I guess I shouldn't be complaining about that. So he wasn't the best against all targets, but eventually he was able to deal okay damage with spears, even though spears as well have been nerfed quite a bit from what they once were in Reforged. So yeah, let's see, he also had Anticipation, so that was nice for damage reduction. Got Duelist and got Finesse and Pattern Recognition. Reached 100 melee skill, which is pretty good. 87 hit points is a little bit low for Nimble, but I don't remember at least if he came close to death, but with the help of Anticipation and the shields, pretty difficult to kill this guy. Was with us for 170 days and got 213 kills. And was still using just a regular fighting spear by the end, which was, I don't know, a little bit disappointing, I guess, but then again, it was fine. Okay, and next up we have Wolfgang, the Pole Armor, who is a caravan hand. Did also succeed in upgrading our inventory, so pretty happy about that as well. He was a very efficient killer despite being clumsy. And I guess 93 melee skill after being clumsy isn't that high, but it was enough, especially with the Backstabber perk. So let's see, he was with us for 200 days and got 417 kills, so that's quite a lot. And he was, of course, using polearms, which lowers the polearm mastery lowers the AP cost to 5, of course, and with that he had Berserk and Combo, so at times he was able to attack 3 times per turn, which was quite nice indeed. He also did get some defenses from dodge, and his base melee defense is 25, so he could on occasion even take a frontline position. One thing that he lacked was some fatigue help from something like Finesse or Battle Flow, but even so, he was a very efficient killer, so I'm pretty damn happy about that. I also did give him 9 lives, don't remember if this ever triggered, but I'm not regretful at all for giving this guy's 9 lives, as it enables some more aggressive maneuvers at least, and it gives some peace of mind as well. And he was using this Cruel Reach, a very nice, well, at least pretty nice polearm with enhanced damage and more effectiveness against armor, I guess, is the other enhanced attribute. I think he had this for a long while. I don't remember exactly how long, but he made good use out of that weapon. And then we have Bertram, our sergeant and tactician rolled into one guy. A pretty early find, a gambler. A pretty lucky early find indeed, as the tactician abilities are very, very good, and especially early on, the Onslaught and Hold Steady and Blitzkrieg abilities will propel you more efficiently into a successful run in Reforged than you would otherwise be able to do. So yeah, we got pretty damn lucky with this guy, especially as early as we found him. With us for 226 days, only has 87 kills, but killing wasn't his job. Very, very good. He wasn't perfect. I guess more melee defense, more hit points, something like that, or 3 stars in resolve would have been better, but you don't need to be perfect to be good enough, and this guy was more than good enough, despite not being perfect. I also gave him 9 lives like I did the others. Not sure if this ever triggered for him either, but that's fine. Okay, so yeah, next one we have Huddy, the thrower slash mace. Level 17, Nomad, nimble with only 78 hit points, did come semi-close to death multiple times, I think. Did need to babysit him. But in the end, he didn't get struck down even once. So yeah, kind of a glass cannon. 42 melee defense, which is good, but still, if you have 78 hit points, no underdog, etc., etc., eventually in a frontline position you will die, but luckily for Huddy, he was a backliner. With us for 191 days and got 242 kills. And I think, yeah, I do appreciate the throwing abilities in Reforged, probably more than I do in Legends. Or in Vanilla, though it's been a long time since I played Vanilla. Especially with these bolas, which have the stagger and stun from throwing mastery, which can really turn the tides in some fights, or at least make them far easier. Of course, not every enemy can be stunned, but still. Anyway, next up is Gerhard, the last one of the team, level 15, who is a farmhand, a brute, who was, I think, just barely good enough for us to recruit him when we did. We found this guy pretty late. Might have actually been the last recruit of the run. I think that was the case at least. Anyway, so he was using mostly this Cold Forge War Scythe. As with Wolfgang, he didn't have any help with fatigue costs, which was a bummer at times, but even so, he was quite the efficient killer. Got Berserk and Killing Frenzy, so he wasn't as good as Wolfgang was, because, yeah, he didn't have combo, for example. But still, he did a good job, and was able to deal a lot of damage with headshots with the Brute trait. Especially with leverage granting plus 20% chance to hit the head. So he was reaping a lot, which is very fatigue intensive. Couldn't do it all the time, but yeah. He also had this Balthasar the Toothless's Ray long pike as a backup weapon. Also a pretty nice one, but we mostly used this one, like I said. He also got dodge and formidable approach to help with survivability. Only had 32 melee defense after the dodge, but that helped him survive, because you can't really keep even the backliners out of the melee range always. Orcs or necrosavants will eventually find them, and this guy was able to survive. Did have 110 hit points by the end, so that helped as well. So with us for 127 days and got 204 kills. Alright, and now let us retire from adventuring. Or at least the captain will retire. You guys can do whatever you wish. You are free. Even the indebted guys, you are free now. So, yeah. Theodbold and was it Mahdi who was the other indebted guy? Do whatever the hell you want. And if you join up with another mercenary band, please feel free to actually demand a wage this time. Okay, so let us retire. Are you sure you want to retire? Yes, I am. So let's see, 608 points. I would appreciate if the game had like a high score screen or something where you could keep track of these, kind of like you get in something like Heroes of Might and Magic. But anyway, when you took over the Bloodforged, you did not foresee history rising up to repeat itself in the worst way possible. The Battle of Many Names was just something you'd heard about, but to see the impetus behind it, a great invasion of greenskins, repeat itself in your own lifetime was quite the sight, and you were ready to meet it. Though the company is unlikely to see very many mentions in the histories of the world, you've no doubt that it proved crucial in defeating the Green Savages. If not, then why else do you have an enormous pile of gold to speak for? Well, the reason for that is because we very rarely found anything worth buying, so we just accumulated more and more money, despite not being able to get the Paymaster retinue for this origin. Anyway, and it was upon that pile of coin you decided to retire, leaving the outfit in the best hands available. The nomad Hadi left the Bloodforged a few months after yourselves. He apparently traveled south and now leads what they're calling the City on Legs, a huge band of peoples that roam the deserts. It is apparently so rich and successful a society that the viziers worry their own people will flock to it. You thought that Zahiri the Gladiator would return to the arenas as you thought he might. However, news from the south speaks of an uprising of indebted and gladiators alike. Unlike previous revolts, this one has viziers swinging from rooftops and slavers being lynched in the streets. The general upheaval is apparently about to sit the once ring fighter as a legitimate power broker in the region. Okay, sure. Your days are now spent tending to a garden and slaying the rabbits which venture into your newfound domain. Every so often, you'll get wind of the Bloodforged doings, stories about its successes, and unfortunately the occasional news that one of the brothers has fallen. These tales are a welcomed respite from days upon days of chasing rabbits out of your garden. You spent so much time fighting, you never realized what wars were waged between men of harvest and these goddamn nibbling monsters. Alright, so finally, I will briefly talk about what will be up next. So, usually I take a bit of a longer break between Battle Brothers campaigns, but I don't know, I might even start the next one relatively soon, but we'll see. We'll see how I feel about it. Anyway, it's going to be something a little bit different again, as that keeps the game fresh for me, even though I have obviously spent many hours in this game, but still, it's probably my favorite game of all time, so why the hell not? If it feels good, then do it, I say. Anyway, there might also be some other games during the summer, but we shall see about that as well. I have some initial plans, but nothing set in stone, so we shall see about that as well. And in the summertime, I might be more engaged in like outdoor activities and stuff, and I don't know, might be that the schedule will be a bit erratic, or might be that I will be able to keep like a mostly daily schedule, but we shall see. We shall see about that as well. You never know. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed the run. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time for whatever it is that you feel like watching that I've made. Anyway, thank you and goodbye.